Hey guys, welcome back to the View from the Ninian. I'm trying out a YouTube intro. If you are watching on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Tom and Ben shaking their heads at that one. Tom Phillips joining us all the way from Australia. Any news from tomorrow?
No, it's just a nice sunny day here. The clocks have gone forward, which is nice. So I get a treat now. I start the pod at 7 a.m. rather than 6 a.m. So being spoilt.
Ben, any clocks going forward in your world?
Not yet. I might do it later just to annoy the missus in the kitchen. But
yeah, good.
We'll see.
Yeah, good banter. If you're wondering why I'm in full kit, it's because I'm really committed to the podcast. And I decided to wear full kit every week now. I've been playing five-a-side, and I haven't had time to change. So Ben's in a career shirt, Tom's in an old school Strongbow shirt, and I'm wearing a Cardiff shirt from a couple of years ago. So that's the fashion covered off. Let's get into the analysis. One game to talk about. We did discuss Mithwack in the week. So it's a Bristol derby to talk about, a 1-1 draw at Ashton Gate. Ben, would you take a 1-1 before the game started?
Well, as soon as I literally predicted that score last week, yeah.
Then you would have.
So, yeah, I on paper, I'd be absolutely buzzing with this result. But I did come away from it. Watched it in 11s in town for the first time. It was Cardiff half on Sunday. So watched it in 11s. Nice place. And I still came away slightly annoyed, really frustrated with the whole thing.
Tom, Ben's got hit on something there that we'll get to, but it was the same team that started the game against Mithwack. Were you surprised by that, or were you expecting some changes with Darland coming back to fitness? You kind of had to keep it consistent, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought Darland may have come in, but I think we said in the week that you've got to reward the players for getting a result because we hadn't got one to that point. So I think that continuity, a bit of consistency would do us good. So yeah, it made complete sense to me.
Ben, let's discuss the first half. You put out a tweet on Saturday saying that we did all right. If you went on Twitter, it would have felt like we were losing 4-0. Do you want to back that up with any words?
Yeah, it was just really weird. Like the halftime whistle blew, and I was like, "Oh, that wasn't too bad. That we did all right." Sort of pretty happy with everything. And then I looked on Twitter, and it felt like it was a mini meltdown. You genuinely thought we were getting battered. There was just people slagging the players off, ponderous, slow. Like the El Ghazi miss, fair enough. I can get a bit of criticism for that. But I thought it was like a really harsh response to the performance on Twitter. And it's not like our fans to be reactionary and sort of over the top in their responses. So I was really surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like in the ground that the first half was what it was, really. We kept them at bay. We obviously had the better chance, I think. Well, the only chance really in that first half, which was the El Ghazi miss, which we'll get to. But it also felt like the Bristol weren't really offering much up front and we were keeping them very quiet. So I wasn't too disappointed with 0-0 at half time. I felt like we could have done a little bit more. But when you go to somewhere like Ashton Gate, it's about keeping it quiet until half time, isn't it, Tom?
Maybe. I think we were second best. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I thought Bristol were the better team first half. And I think that's where the frustration's probably coming from. I think we just lacked a little bit of intent going forward again. I think that's probably where where the frustration's coming from. We didn't really create. We had that, obviously, the one chance, but we just looked like we were lacking ideas in that first half. And I think you treat it as a half on its own. It's not too bad, but I think it's the games that come before it that makes it frustrating. You know, Bristol are on a bit of a bad, an up and down run at the moment, and probably were there for the taking. So I kind of get it. You're looking for that kind of derby feel in that first half, and I don't think it had that. And to be honest with you, we're just looking for something positive on the pitch at the moment, and I don't think that first half probably offered it. But I agree with Ben. I think the level-headed approach is it's 0-0 half-time away from home against one of our nearest rivals. You probably would have taken that before the ball was kicked.
Yeah, Ben, the two main incidents in the first half, one involved Ollie Tanner, one involved El Ghazi. Obviously, it looks like there was a suspected fracture for the Bristol City player, Cameron Pring, I think his name is. So best wishes to him. Hopefully it's not as bad as it seems. It was a very innocuous incident, wasn't it, Ben? It didn't look like Ollie Tanner did much wrong.
Well, at first I thought the bloke getting like the treatment by the doctor was the lad that got clattered by Bagan. I thought he claimed his first victim. But no, it turned out, it was just really weird that it was the lad that Tanner caught. It didn't look anything in it.
No, and it was a lazy leg by Tanner, wasn't it? He just hung a leg out and the guy might have caught it, but it looked like the kind of thing that happens 10 times a game.
Oh, every week it happens, like regularly. And like he must be so unfortunate to happen to him. Like, I genuinely feel sorry for him. Like, it's never nice to see any player get a serious injury. So, like you said, hopefully it's not a bad break and he's back in a few months.
Yeah, and Tom, Ben's already touched upon it, but the El Ghazi miss, I'm still baffled as to how he did it, which makes me think he deserves some praise for it, really, because he's 2 yards out from goal. He gets the ball down and he manages to hit it off the post, I think it was, although I still couldn't really see from the away end. That would have really, really done him the world of good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it feels like it's exactly what he needs and what we're looking for from him at the moment is just to get him off the mark. Because he's one of those players that you hope that he gets one and he will kick on. Bit of a cliche, but I think he would be. I don't think he's in the needs one off his arse camp. I don't think he's that type of player. I don't think that would do him a world of good. I don't think he's the right personality type for the one off the arse one. But no, I think we need him to get that first goal because he could become an asset as the season goes on. But yeah, it's a tough one when you look at it back.
Yeah, I mean, being at the away end, you're so far away from that happening, and like everyone in the away end was hoping that it was given as offside. I think it was a goal kick because I don't think he was offside, but we were hoping it was offside just to spare his blushes because we couldn't really see how he managed to spoon that wide or off the post. It felt like an easier chance to score than miss, but he proved us wrong. So he's always confounding expectations, is Anwar El Ghazi. Ben. Second half was much better, wasn't it? It felt a bit like the Swansea second half in the sense that we just kind of kicked on.
I thought we were brilliant second half. Really, really enjoyed it. Like Tom said about the first half where we lacked intent, all that intent was there. Colwill seemingly don't know what he did at half time. Don't want to question what he did at half time, but whatever he did, it worked. Where he found that new energy from, like, it's not for me to say, it's for drug test to find. But whatever happened, it was just class. That's the the Ruben Colwill that we want. I think same with Tanner. They're the exact performances we want from both of them. They just got at players and were just a menace and controlled the game. And that really made us tick. And I thought we more than deserved to go 1-up. It was a great goal to score as well. But like the whole performance of all the forward players was class. And like it seemingly then gave the defenders a bit of confidence and they looked a bit braver, sort of looking for that slightly less obvious pass. It was like trying to bring it forward, and everyone just got into the game and looked really, really sharp.
Yeah, Tom, it felt like for that 21-minute period after half time until Omar Reason made those substitutions, which we'll get to, it felt like there was only going to be one winner in that game, wasn't there? How exciting is it that we're starting to see Ruben Colwill kind of stretch those legs, as it were? I mean, we've called for it for a long time, but obviously with Ramsey being out injured, he's making that kind of 10 position his own. But there are times where he's almost unplayable, isn't he?
Yeah, when he's in that form, like he does things that other players don't do. His limbs look differently to like what other players look like.
Long.
As well. Yeah, like he has an air about him that other players don't have in this league, and he's just really exciting when he gets on the ball. And even when he loses the ball, he sometimes comes out of it the other end and stuff because he sticks a foot in, a little glance here and there. He turns in a different direction than another player would, and he's just got that like natural ability about him, that natural knack to get out of these tight gaps that we don't have elsewhere. And he just unlocks play. I think the one thing he's probably missing is the more simple side of his game. I think his decision making and stuff at times, but that hopefully, I know we've been saying this for years, but like that hopefully that will come with a run in the team. And I keep forgetting how young he is. Like he's still 21, and it's just, that's madness, really. Like,
yeah,
it feels like he's been around for ages. And I know that we've probably been frustrated that he hasn't had as much game time over the last couple of years, but he'll probably benefit from that in the next couple because he hasn't been run into the ground and battered and bruised as much as he could be. But yeah, like the flashes we've seen this season, and especially against Bristol, if we see a little bit more of that, then he could be one of the catalysts to push us up further the table come the end of the season.
He's made 111 appearances for us according to Wikipedia, which is quite a lot for a young player at Cardiff, isn't it? Because bearing in mind we usually either get rid of them or they kind of fade away a little bit before that. He's actually getting the game time that he needs now. Ben, Tom's touched upon it there, but the way he unlocks play and actually doing some of the dirty work is what led to Tanner's goal, wasn't it? Obviously, he won the tackle that got the ball back down the right-hand side. He took on a couple of players, knocked the ball inside to Tanner, who did the rest. How good was that goal?
Oh, it was brilliant. I think just sort of the build-up and everything that went with it, there aren't going to be many better goals scored from us this season. The way the season's gone, there might not be any more goals. We don't really know. But if that is the last one, what a goal it was. It was just brilliant, wasn't it? It's the kind of football that gets you off your feet, and just you need that bit of magic sometimes when it's not quite happening. Because while we look very impressive, like we either weren't taking the chances that were there, or there weren't that many clear-cut ones either that we think we should have. They sort of came later on after we scored. Yeah, I was just buzzing to see it just go in. Like when he hit it, it just felt like it was destined for that top bins, didn't it? It was just one of those, you knew as soon as he hit it, that's a goal.
It's one of those goals that I think in the ground we obviously all went mental for it, but I didn't actually get the full view of the goal, because obviously you see Colwill get the ball and knock it inside to Tanner, and when you're watching it live up close, you don't, because of the way the crowd jump up, you don't necessarily see that first turn inside, and then he takes out two players with the second turn, and you just think he's made space for himself there, Tom, that other players wouldn't do, hasn't he? And obviously he's found the top corner with, I mean, the strike he's hit it so hard. Is that better than his Swansea goal, Tom, for you?
Technically, yes. I think occasion-wise, no. I think that's the only thing. Just the aesthetic of it being under the lights and stuff of the Swansea game, isn't it? Like, I think he'll never beat that. But I think, it's a better goal technically. It's just the way, it's the build-up to it, like you said. I think just the little touches to get himself a bit of space cutting in. And it's still rising when it hits the back of the net as well. It's unbelievable the power he gets behind that. And it's been a while since we've had a player who could probably do that, you know, shoot from distance and score and cut in and that. And it's really exciting to see. And you can see with Tanner why he's the type of player who probably isn't the first name on the team sheet with some of the performances and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say he's the most reliable, but what he's got is one of those magic moments. And in games like Bristol like that, it's worth a gamble having him on the field to try and unlock something, because they're not the ones who are like firing at the top of the league, Bristol. They're the games where you can have that Colwill Tanner link up and have those, you know, get the bums off the seats, like you said earlier on. But yeah, when he puts a performance in, Tanner, there's not many better than him in the league, to be honest, when in that position. Like I said, it has just been so long since we've had players like Colwill and Tanner, like producing stuff like that. You know, even when we've been promoted and stuff, it's been grinding down performances, staying in games, winning 1-0 and stuff like that. Like there's nothing more exciting than when you produce football like that. Like that's an unbelievable goal. I must have watched it about 200 times since it scored. It's an absolute smasher.
I think also there was parts of the game on Sunday as well where Tanner was showing a bit more of his grown-up self as well. He was tracking back and making tackles. He was winning the ball deeper, coming forward with it and making some really nice link-up play. And I think it helps then that him and Colwill seem to have such a great understanding between them. I think it's, you know, you talk about kind of like telepathic understanding. It's times where they're playing with each other where they just know where the other one is, and they know that the link-up they're going to do is going to take players out of the game.
They don't even look up. That's the weird bit. That's what really is really impressive with it. It's just there was a couple of times where they linked up, and like you're saying, it's telepathic. Because like Cole, the one thing sort of I get a bit annoyed with him is a lot of the time when he's running with the ball, his head's down a bit. He's not sort of looking up, and that probably doesn't help his decision making. But it's that weird understanding he has with Tanner that he seems to know exactly where he is. And I think there was one time where Tanner just wasn't quite where he should have been. And Cole knocked the ball into that space, expecting him to be there, and looked up and was really surprised he wasn't there. And that probably just shows how in sync they are with each other, because Tanner was like just off. He wasn't a million miles away and put his hand up apologising. So like they both know each other's roles within the team. I think they're clearly, it's got to be something they work on together in training. They've got something there where they're working regularly together. And that's how they built up that rapport, that understanding. But I want to go back to what you said about Tanner's sort of defensive work rate. I thought he was brilliant. The whole game, that's the best. He was, but the amount of times he got behind NG and sort of blocked stuff off, that he hasn't done that for us before. It's a really important game, like aspect of his game he needs to introduce, and probably where he's let himself down in the past. And for him to do well, other than going out on the piss constantly, that's another area he might let himself down a bit. But yeah, he was brilliant. Just can't fault him at all for his defensive work rate and going forward. Really looked to make stuff happen again.
I think with Colwill and Tanner, sorry, it's just they're the same. It's almost like where would I be if I was putting a ball through? I think they don't even need to work on that. They see the game the same way, the same that same attacking intent. And I think that's probably why we haven't got the most out of Colwill in the past and the most out of Tanner in the past, is because we haven't. Other players don't see what they see. There's no coincidence that when they link up, it's the most exciting thing we've got, because they're the same type of player. They're young, exciting. They want to get at people. And we haven't got many people in that squad over the last probably 3 or 4 years that want to get at people. So, yeah, I think if you start one, you start two with those two, because, it's the best link-up we've got in that squad.
In terms of Ollie Tanner's defensive work, he won 3 out of 3 tackles, 100% there, 4 recoveries, which I don't think he would have done last season. He probably would have been tracking back in the way that we wanted him to. And Tom, we talk about the goal we scored, but it could have been 2 or 3 on another day. And obviously the 2 big chances were missed by Tanner and Colwill, and they both linked up together to make those chances. Obviously Tanner had a shot that he hit high, wide and handsome, like himself. And Ruben Colwill had a shot that he just couldn't quite get out of his feet. But that would have killed the game, wouldn't it, at that point, and really, really put the icing on the cake.
Yeah, definitely. I think the fans were restless in the Bristol end.
They were very restless. They were booing their players.
Yeah, and it would have killed the game for sure. I think you would have seen mass exodus of fans leaving. It was that type of moment, really. And I think that is the other side of that duo. I think we see a lot of those nearly misses from Colwill, and I'm hoping that's something that comes, but it's just part of the game. There's the amount of times it almost feels like it's a little bit caught up in his feet, or it's a little bit behind him, and he's kind of trying to drag his foot forward to put a finish in. You've seen that a few times where he's probably just mistimed that run into the 6-yard area and stuff like that. But it'll happen. You can forgive it from the other stuff that he creates throughout the game. But I think we need to start putting teams away. I know we didn't have any points a week or so ago, so let's not get too carried away. But I think now we're starting to create chances. We need to be clinical, because I think that's something we've been lacking for a long time. And I think that's the difference between us being in a playoff picture and being probably mid-table and even lower, is not putting those chances away. So frustrating, but, it's a point away from home, so it's not the end of the world.
I think in 12 months' time as well, these boys, Tanner and Cole, will play regularly. If they're playing as much as they are now this whole season, I think they score both those chances. I think it's purely down to inexperience and just rushing it. I think the more football they play, I know you said, was it 111 appearances, whatever it is for Colwill now, but a lot of those were 10, 15 minutes off the bench, especially under Morrison and stuff like that. I think it's, he needs both of those players sort of, as it goes, need longer and longer to play, sort of longer minutes. And when that happens, you'll see improvement week in, week out. They'll really develop between now and the end of the season. So it's something to be excited for. In a season that hasn't had many highlights so far, I think their gameplay is something that we can sort of say, at least that's all right.
It's really the best thing, isn't it? Talking about highlights, Ben, let's talk about their substitutions. Obviously, I'm going to try and be a bit more diplomatic on Omariza, even though I was pretty pissed off with him during the game yesterday. He made those subs on the 66th minute. He brought on Jesper Darland for El Ghazi, and he brought on Callum O'Dowd for Callum Robinson. We immediately went into a back 5 and kind of and had no forward line at that point. Obviously, Colwill was probably playing as a striker, but was playing a bit deeper to be a striker. And immediately, Ben, we invited pressure on ourselves, didn't we?
It was, naive at best, just stupid and ridiculous at worst. I think it felt like he was trying to prove a point to himself and sort of make out like he's a tactical genius and he can sort of knows how to see out this game. But he did it at a point where we're on top and we were probably playing the best we were all game. We were absolutely dominating them at that point. And then he comes out after sort of said, there were spaces opening up, blah, blah, blah. There wasn't. That's when we literally had the most control. Everyone was surprised that we took it there. And for him to double down and say the reasons he did it were this and not sort of go, look, I got it wrong, convinced me even more that he's not the right man to take his club forward. I think what he's done so far has been brilliant, and I'm going to huge amount of credit for turning this around sort of in the couple of games he has. None of these performances happen under Bullet this season. The players are really clearly buying into what he's doing, but I think the decisions with those subs were absolutely ridiculous, and just it cost us the win. It goes from like a good point to 2 points dropped purely based on those subs. It's a real shame to say that, because I wanted this to be a really positive one. We've come away with a point from our rival sort of when we're in a difficult run of form, and I've come away really annoyed the manager's done that. It's just, I don't feel like he was thinking about the club and sort of the result there. I think he was trying to think about himself and sort of showing the owners and stuff, oh, look how good of a manager I am. I can do this job.
Tom, if he'd made those changes at 80 minutes, it would have made a lot more sense, wouldn't it?
That is so early. I think
66 minutes the subs are made.
66 minutes, yeah. I looked it up earlier on, and
half
that
a
is
half
early.
left.
I think it just, I'm not sure the impression that gives you to like the fans and the team, so that we're going that negative that quick, as if we're not backing us to kind of, we're not good enough to keep that pressure, turning that screw. He says that we were kind of starting to like lose the battle a little bit in the middle of the field. You can see it turning slightly. Like we were still the much better team at that point, and you could maybe see it turning slightly, but I still don't think that's the answer.
No.
So like if you're starting to lose the battle in the middle of the park, I don't think going 5 at the back is the way to kind of stem that tide. So I don't really get the comment more than anything. And I like Ben says, a little bit disappointing to see him kind of doubling down and saying he doesn't regret it and things like that. It is unfortunate. I think like Ben's right. I think it shows that there's a little bit of tactical naivety there. And I'd just be annoyed if I was an attacking player in that team where, you know, I think you look at other teams who, when they 1-0 up, who probably go for a second. I want us to be that team that go for a second, because I think the personnel we've got in that squad, it's the squad where you go for the second. When Bristol are pushing forward, that's when, you know, the likes of Tanner, Colwill, Robinson, and El Ghazi will start to get more space. If anything, that's the time you want to see them on the ball, is later in game, not earlier in the game. So for me, it just puts us under pressure then. And if anything, if they get a goal early, they're more likely to get the second than us scoring to win that game. It's like as soon as it's back to 1-1, it's not our game then from that point, because you haven't got the personnel on the field to change it. And just don't do the 2 subs in one go, or like just the mass subs in one go. Try one little tweak. If we're starting to only lose the battle slightly in midfield, then make one personnel change. You don't need a tactical change at that point when you're on top. I think we give Bullet, you know, a bit of a, not abuse. We giving criticism, for like not making subs at the right time. And this, I think, that was probably ringing in Omar Reza's ear a little bit. It's like, oh well, Bullet didn't do enough. I must do something, and that something shouldn't have been that. That's for sure.
It just sucked all the life out of the team in the stadium, and it sucked the life out of the fans as well, because we were all a bit baffled really by what he'd just done. And I think it was understandable potentially bringing Darland on to shore up at the back, or O'Dowda on. One of them would have been fine, but 2 of them at the same time. And then it was the classic thing really, and it happened with Bullet as well. So maybe he did learn something from Errol Bullet, is that like he then had to, when they scored, he had to start undoing his own substitutions, which is when he had to bring Kanga on, is when he brought Siopis on. Like all of a sudden, Colwill was playing in 2 or 3 different positions, and it disrupted the team even more. And it kind of took the momentum out of things, really. And you talk about Tom kicking on. Obviously, the last 2 derbies we've won, we won 2-0 at home when Allsop got sent off late. We scored 52 minutes and 70 minutes. Last season, when we beat them at home, it was a first half goal, then a late goal from Colwill. We could have done the same here. Even away from home last year, at Ashton Gate, we scored relatively late on. They're not a secure side, Bristol. They're there for the taking. And a second goal with the players you have on the pitch would have done that. But instead, Ben, we're sat here bemoaning a 1-1 draw because 7 minutes later, I think it was, after the subs, they get a goal from Luke McNally. And it was a soft goal to concede. O'Dowda came on, wasn't strong enough in the tackle down the right-hand side. The left-hand side, sorry, their right-hand side. Cross comes in and NG beaten in the air, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I think, to be fair, again, you're playing that flat back 5. And that's part of what annoyed me as well, was it wasn't 3 at the back with wing backs. It was a flat back 5.
Yeah.
You can see he's trying to suffocate the game, but it was just a bad move. And was it Armstrong sort of won the header against NG?
Their goal was scored by Luke McNally.
Oh, sorry, it was McNally then. Yeah, so like it's not exactly a fair
Armstrong had
battle.
gone off at that point.
Yeah, McNally's a big player. Sort of Perry's not the biggest. It's a mismatch there. Again, I can't put too much blame on him because the cross should have been cut out well before that. Adada's got to clear his lines.
Yeah,
I think it's a basic thing. He's fair play for him trying to pick the pass. That I can sort of see what he was trying to do, but I think in that situation, it's such a dangerous area to lose the ball. Just get rid. You saw with Jack Anek like later in the game. If he wasn't sure he could make the pass, he was just punting out for a throw, and they're much easier to defend. So yeah, it was just a really frustrating goal to concede. But it was kind of that's another bit that it was sort of the minute that sub was changed, the players looked bemused, and we just didn't seem to get to grips with that new formation probably until the 93rd minute.
It wasn't even that. Like, as soon as we made those changes, I was speaking to people about the game. There was no out ball. We were under pressure, but there was no one to pass the ball to because we'd gone so narrow. So instead of having players running out the wings, then strikers going through the middle, every player was in our own half. And every time a defender looked up to get rid of the ball, the nearest player was 5 yards away from them, and there was nobody in the opposing half to play a long ball to. So we were inviting the pressure on ourselves because we just couldn't get rid of the ball. And it felt like, until the goal, the goal and slightly beyond, it was just a sustained period of pressure from Bristol, and it was brought on by ourselves. You go, Tom.
Yeah, I think the difference, because there's often games where subs are made, and you kind of retrospectively go, "Oh, that was the bad decision." The difference with this one was, as soon as it happened,
everyone
knew. And like, you look at Twitter, like Glenn said, that's an odd change, I think, and stuff like that. It was just, it felt wrong at the time, and that doesn't happen that often. No. There's not often where you're sat there as a fan going, "I don't see what the manager's trying here," but it was one of those. And I think Ben's right. He's probably trying to. It's an audition for him, right, for the full-time job, and he's trying something. And I get it, but it just hasn't worked. And you'd think, considering the start of the season, we've had 4 points in these two games, would put you in the mix. I think that last half hour of that game, he's probably played himself back out of it.
Yeah,
it is quite maddening, mad to say that that he had a 3-game audition and he'd done well. Obviously, Millwall, we got the result. Hull, we looked all right for 25 minutes. Bristol, we're on the way to a win, and that one change could, in theory, cost him the job. I think we'll get some of the Twitter comments, and people might see it as an overreaction. People might want Omar Reza to stay, but it kind of was a moment of panic, wasn't it? That shows that maybe he doesn't have the temperament for it, or as you say, Ben, he was trying a bit too hard in that moment to see the game out. And if he just let it run on for 10 more minutes, I don't think they score. I think we frustrate them even more. Their fans start leaving, and the atmosphere gets really ugly. And instead, we handed a point to them on a platter.
I can totally understand making the change of Algazi. He was sort of looking knackered. He hasn't played in a year. I get that change. Robinson was still in the game. He was still involved, and he looked as surprised as us when he came off.
Yeah.
And there's been, I think, like each game Reza's managers now, he's taken him off around the 60-minute mark, which is probably going to get a bit frustrating for him as well, because he's working hard. Like the last 18 months, we sort of criticised Robinson's work rate and everything with it. That's come back in abundance this season. He's really looked up for it.
I wonder why that could be.
Yeah. But his data's is like it's either he's trying to be a smart ass or it's a data-driven sub, which do my head in, where he's sort of gone, right, the last 5 minutes, Robinson's average speed has dropped down or whatever it is. And it's just, really naive of him at best. And it's a shame, really, because I shouldn't be this adamant of a bloke that's got us. He's got 4 times the amount of points like Bullet did for us this season in 2 games. We shouldn't be sort of going, right, he's definitely not the right bloke here. But he just is. It's just proven that he's not the right bloke.
Yeah. And I think it's just, in those 3 games, obviously, Hull, we lost. Millwall, we won. But, I keep having a conversation about if Bullet had that performance against Millwall, you probably wouldn't be rushing to keep him around, would you? Like, it's just one of those things. Like, he got 3 points, but it probably wasn't the best performance in the world. And I understand people are excited by him and he wants a job. He clearly wants the job, but I just think Sunday proves why he probably can't get the job.
I'm suspicious about how much he wants it. He's mentioned it a lot. I don't know. Like, I think it almost comes across as a little bit desperate. He didn't do the one game at the time thing or anything. He didn't get those cliches out there. I don't know. It feels like the only opportunity he'll ever have to have a job this big. Like, I don't think he'll come around again. So I kind of get it, right? You back yourself, you want to take it, but I think it shows I think it's too big a job for him at this moment. And you don't say that about Cardiff City very often, but like, I don't think he's got the credentials to kind of take over at the moment.
I think Cardiff's a massive job. You look like, not just because like of like what we like saying we're a huge sort of like club. I think it's a really difficult place to manage. You've got a demanding fan base. We're one
so reactionary.
Yeah, we're a one club city as well. Sort of everything sort of like about it is sort of in a bubble. A lot of the players that do well here are the players that come into the bubble and sort of embrace the bubble. The ones that struggle are those that sort of try and sit out of it and float around it and don't do as well. It's a high pressure situation. There's one major newspaper that covers a lot of it that makes it difficult. And on top of all that, you've got a piss poorly run club at the top. I think we'll go back to it with like the ownership and directors and stuff. It's not an easy place to manage. That alone, I think, means it's not right. You saw Hudson, like with everything that went on with him, like he's very well thought of as a coach. It just wasn't the right job for him. I think for Reeser, he could be a good manager somewhere, but it ain't gonna be a good manager for Cardiff because it's just too big of a job. We're too poorly run for any sort of new manager to make a success of it. It's got to be someone that's got war damage to them, basically, sort of when nothing shocks them and they're used to everything that comes with it.
I also think you've got a mismatch in the fan base because you've got a lot of people who would be happy to give Reeser the job, and they want that young manager who's probably untainted by other stuff and is fresh and new. And Reeser's managed at Cheshunt and Leyton Orient, so the guy's as fresh as they come in terms of a football manager. He's never really done it anywhere but League Two or below. But then you've got other people who would be absolutely delighted with Allardyce or David Moyes coming in. And you've got other people who insisted it has to be this coach from Man City that no one's heard of and all this kind of stuff. Like, whoever comes in is going to have to win over a section of the fan base immediately, or has already got one section of the fan base won over, but the rest are going to be skeptical to them. And then when you go to the games themselves, the atmosphere is flat. It's not a great club at the moment, Cardiff City, as we've talked about forever on this podcast. You can go back 3 years and listen to old episodes and we're talking about the same things.
Which is about 8 different managers.
Yeah, every manager we've spoken about. Anyway, Tom, at the Bristol game, I wrote down that Connor, I've mixed up Colwill and Tanner there. Colwill, Tanner, Gutas all played quite well. Fotmob gave the man of the match, and I think Colwill actually got the man of the match. Bagan put in quite a good performance at left back. NG was back to his usual self. It was just a better performance, wasn't it, all round? We've talked about us throwing away the points, but it was a better performance all round, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's our old favourites that are doing well again. It's Gutas coming back in, doing well. It's NG doing well. But then you've got youngsters like Colwill, Tanner and Bagan, which I didn't see coming. I must admit, I didn't see the redemption arc. It wasn't as if he'd done anything wrong. But
like what you said on the preview pod, mate.
That's true. I can't even remember what this is about, but yeah. I think Bagan's been really good the last couple of games and is becoming an asset to us now as well, because as we said, we've been looking a little bit light in that position as it is. But no, I think it's good that because Gutas looked rugby earlier in the season, he's got dropped from the team, but he's come back in and he's solid. That's only going to only be a good thing for us. Because we haven't been scoring goals. So if our defenders stand to pick up again, at least that's going to shore us up a little bit. But I think the international break's coming at a good time for these players now as well. I know you could look at it, it kills our momentum, but I think a couple of decent results, an international break now to go away, reflect, kind of settle down a little bit and come back out firing for these players. I think it's a really good spot for us to be in.
It's also going back after the international break. We've got Plymouth and Portsmouth, the 2Ps, in quite quick succession. And obviously, Argyle Life, Aaron Hockin, they have asked the question on Twitter. No offense, but they're two games that we'd be looking to win, both at home. Portsmouth are immediately above us. Plymouth are doing quite well now, but I still think that there's a bit of a ricket in them, so we could get the result as they showed last year at Cardiff City Stadium with that own goal. So let's go over to Twitter now for the Twitter questions. Argyle Life, assuming the international break is now a huge help for you. 2 weeks to get someone in, announce Reza as a permanent and work ahead of our visit, annoyingly for us. We'll talk about the manager situation more generally in a bit, but I don't... With the greatest respect to our football club, Aaron Hocking, I don't trust us to get a manager in this 2 week period. Thomas Taylor, Tanner and Colwill were brilliant. I would have taken a point at the start of the day, but feels like 2 points dropped. All of the subs seemed weird, killed the momentum and ultimately cost us. Oliver Rees, Reza has steadied the ship. Get this appointment right over the international break. Yes, I'm fully aware who I'm talking about. And I think we'll get to mid-table. Colwill and Tanner look great the last 2 games. Mogsy89 looked much better today. Great to see the shackles released. Colwill and Tanner specifically. Not taking our chances cost us. Reza's changes didn't help. As soon as they were made, we were on the back foot. It's nice to see us go at teams again. Definitely something to build on. Dan Evans says Reza highlights just how bad Bullet was. Found our best lineup, which was obvious, but Bullet never played it. Put trust in Tanner and Colwill, who look like a great partnership, but sums up how fickle the fan base is. Worship Bullet, who was awful, but now Reza being slated for one mistake. Ben, is that fair? Worship no. Bullet? I think we were all pretty pissed off with him after about game 2 of this season.
Yeah, and I think people have criticised him long enough. I think Bullet's taken a fair bit of grief for a long time. People were just desperate for it to work. You can criticise Bullet, and I think we did. We were sort of quite open that the performances weren't good enough. We just wanted it to work for him. It's not one mistake with Reza, is it? It's a series of things that sort of came from it. Even in just the Bristol game, the subs, every sub got wrong. Like Siopis came on, instantly gave the ball away. There's a lot. Yeah. And then lost it again
twice. Gave the ball away immediately and then won it straight back and then gave it away.
There's lots of bits like that. I think to say it's fickle and sort of all this, that I get he wants Reza to work out and sort of thinks he's the man that takes forward or whatever, but he's just not. It's as clear sort of to everyone that, as clear as it was that Bullet wasn't working out, I think for most people it's clear that Reza isn't the answer for a manager job either. Yeah, it's not being fickle. It's just sort of
being
calling
realist.
things as, it's calling things as they are.
It's like the Cribs song, I'm a realist. Alex Bennett, think he's done well, but any chance of him getting a job is gone after that. With 5 to 10 minutes left, maybe then fair enough. But we offered nothing after the subs and the goal was coming. We need to appoint a manager today, tomorrow, or we're wasting valuable time. Daniel Price, O'Dowda has been very bad this season. Another mistake today costing us points. What is up with him? A lot of the other out-of-form players have improved a lot. He, however, is still stuck. Also, Reno spent 2 years out of favour and now is in the squad playing, and I'm happy for him. Tom, is O'Dowda's troubles due to his non-commitment on his facial hair?
You know, you've got to worry about his decision making there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mustache for most of the season. Now he shaved it off. What's going on?
You don't know where you're at with O'Dowda. What position is he? I don't really know. Does he have a moustache? I don't really know. No, I think he's been in and out.
Even when he did try and grow it, did he have a moustache? I don't really know is the correct answer.
It was pretty weak.
Yeah, he's been in and out of the team. I think, again, I'm sure with a run of games, he'll pick up a bit of consistency because he's one of our more dependable players when he does play, and he's versatile as well. Like, we haven't played him in just one position. He's been all over the shop for us, and he always puts a shift in. So I'm not going to be quick to criticise O'Dowda. I think he'd have to put in a few more stinkers for me to get on his back.
Richard Endicott says, I'll be spending the week trying to find where I can get the same jumper as Oma. I spent a fortune on Errol-inspired coats. I'm all over this. Well, Richard, if you go on the Cardiff City website and search Salem sweatshirt, I don't know why it's called Salem, it's there. I found it earlier because I was intrigued as well, and I might actually have to buy it because most of the Cardiff City Club shop stuff is shite, but that's actually quite nice. John T.M. Williams.
He's not got the drip though, is he? I was just looking at him at Bristol. I think part of it is it's just not as good. Like, him and Bullet could wear the same coat, and part of me would think Bullet's is real and Reese's is fake. I don't know why that is. It just feels like one of those. It's not got the same drip. He needs to be a tracksuit manager. He's not got there's something about him that just doesn't scream sort of casual clothes.
What I'm going to say now might be quite controversial, so set your faders to censor. It's because he's not very tall. Like,
Yeah.
The clothes that
Yeah, no.
Errol Bullitt wore, like long coats look better on tall people. Like if you're a short person, you wear a long coat, it kind of dwarfs you. So that's why Rees is wearing this more casual stuff, because I think he's aware that he needs to look big in stature on the sidelines. And I have this conversation with my friend all the time. I can wear a trench coat because I'm 6'4". He can't wear a trench coat because he's a nonce, because he's 5'8". Because he's a bit shorter than me, and it kind of dwarfs him a little bit. That's what it is.
I must admit, like other Ben, possibly. Yeah. That really caught me off guard.
I thought it would. That's why I said it. I thought it'd be funny.
Yeah.
If I say that gets cut.
Yeah.
Not because I name the person. I don't say my friend. I say so-and-so is a nonce.
Yeah,
but still.
Exactly. Anyway, John T.M. Williams felt gutted. Points lost for me, indicating Reza has no tactical awareness suggested by changes. Kanga, another dud, I'm afraid. Time for Ashford and Reindorf to come off the bench. Need an experienced manager to be brought in during the international break. Alex OS, Ryan Giggs reportedly Tan's choice for best manager. Thoughts? Less said about the bloke as a person and a poet, the better, but strictly as a manager. We'll talk about the managerial choices after this bit. Forever Blue 86, the decision shows the inexperience and we cannot give him the job. However, he needs to be kept on as he's clearly a good coach. He looks like a character from Shameless, also get him back in a tracksuit. Lee Spear, I was critical of Reza for being... I think it's the hair, isn't it? I was critical of Reza for being too negative on Sunday, but he's done okay since taking over. It's understandable that he'd want to protect the lead in the derby when he's trying to land the job permanently. It's not his fault we missed 2 or 3 chances either. Chris Stephen, Willock over El Ghazi on that left side for me all day. That said, credit where it's due. The balance of the midfield is better. Robertson has to start in the 6. As for the international break, I'll be voting early in the basket case. That is the US election. And he's put up a middle finger to Trump. Morgan, obvious improvement in the performance today compared to what we've seen in other games. Think the decision to go back 5 when we were on top was a mistake and shows Reza's inexperience. Definite improvement under him, mind. Kosher says the man made a mistake. Haven't any of you made mistakes? I put down to a point gain, not 2 points lost. The bullet, it would have been 0 points. I've made plenty of mistakes, but I just think in a big game like that, that shows that the man's not got the temperament potentially for the job, and it's the audition. That's the thing. If it was, you kind of forgive it if he's just got the job, or you forgive it if he's 10 games in or something. But I don't know. I just can't. It just says something about him, really, that he's just not potentially the manager. And also, 2 points lost under Bullet. Bullet was 100% in the Bristol derby, so maybe he wouldn't have 2 points lost. That's all I'm saying.
A bit of credit for Reza, mind. He seems so completely united our Twitter feed. Yeah. Everyone said exactly the same thing. He's brought the fans together. It's a good ploy. He's done it.
Here's another one. James CCFC. Reza has improved us a lot with a limited coaching team and not a fully fit squad. It's too big a job for him this season, but with the right person brought in for this season to mentor him, I'd give Reza the job at the end of the season.
I'm not in this interim shit.
What's that?
None of this interim shit. Whoever comes in, it's not promoting from within doesn't work well for us. That's all I'm going to say.
John Watson says getting a proper manager who understands tactics and ambition. MJCCFC says so much overreaction with Reza. He's got us 4 points from 9 when we were at rock bottom. We'll also finally playing some good football and trusting the youth. Don't see us going down or anything close. It's just don't see us going down is not a very high bar, is it? Like, we're going to hire a manager who won't get us relegated. We thought that with Hudson. We thought that with Steve Morrison, and they almost took us down. And I also just don't think is he trusting the youth? He's playing the young players who've always been playing. Bagan's been in and around that squad for 3 years. He's not brought Reindorf in. He hasn't unleashed Ashford too much. He's just using the squad that is at his disposal. Daniel Morgan, always good to see members of the pod out in the wild, boys. I promised a dirty question, so here we go. This one's for you, Ben. Would you rather eat a raw goldfish or lick Lee the Slug Johnson's pinky toe for 3 minutes?
Oh, goldfish. Don't even like fish, but I ain't licking anyone's pinky toe.
At least not Lee Johnson's.
No. But do slugs... loophole. Slugs don't have toes.
Ah. Tom, goldfish or a toe?
Are you denying science here, Tom? Google slugs. So show me a picture of a slug's toe. Go on.
I'm not saying they don't have toes. Just saying if you had to still lick where a toe would be, it'd be even worse if it was an actual slug. But does the whole back of it count as one big toe?
Well, no, it's his
Getting
back. You just
tactical, isn't
said
it?
it was his back.
Yeah, fair enough. Actually,
So
You
is
mean
at
that-
the
you
end
mean-
of the
you mean
thing.
there's, like,
There's
bottom
no
bit,
foot,
the bit
there's
that
no
you,
toes,
like-
I'm just licking here.
the bit he scoots along on.
yeah, that's not a
Like,
toe,
wow.
is it? It might be a
No.
foot.
It's like a chassis.
The slug chassis. That sounds like a good like heavy metal band.
Good night out. Yes, like chassis. With songs such as "Crush Me to Death." Right, let's talk about managerial talk. Connor Davis, would you be happy with Slaven Bilic taking over the squad? Alan Griffiths, Slaven Bilic is top of my list just for that glasses off shrug and handshake. Who else said Slaven Bilic? There was somebody else who said Slaven Bilic. I think that was it, actually. Ben, we haven't got a new manager in. It's still Omar Reza as we go into the international break. But one man has taken over at the top of the favourites chart, if you speak to the bookies, and that's Slaven Bilic. I've heard rumblings that he's somebody that the club want. I don't know if he's somebody that we can get. But would you be happy with that, Ben?
It's a mixed bag, isn't it? Done well in some places, terribly in others. I think he underperformed at was West Brom his last club.
Last club in England. No, Watford was
It-
his last club in England.
Oh yeah, but that doesn't count.
I
Everyone's
used to
done
give
that.
him that. That's a freebie.
Yeah. I
He
feel
was
like
at Watford for 26 games.
that's
That's the
quite
longest
long
manager
term.
in 50 years. Yeah.
Yeah, like fair play to him.
Anyway,
He's done
carry
all
on,
right there. But I feel like he underperformed it with quite a good West Brom side. But there's bits there that sort of make me want him as well. I'm unsure. I'm not against it, but I'm not massively like, oh yeah, he's definitely the bloke that can take us forward.
You say he underperformed at West Brom.
It might just be at the end. It went off
No, this
the
is
rails quite
No,
badly.
this is
but-
really, he's just going to
He
go
got
up
him
and go
promoted.
right.
He got him promoted.
Yeah.
He got him promoted and was sacked 3 months into the Premier League season.
Am I confusing it with the Watford stuff then?
I think you're confusing him with Watford, basically. So he was at West Brom June 2019 to December 2020, and his win percentage in that time was 40%. He got them promoted as runner-up championship, just behind Leeds, I think it was. Yeah, Leeds who won it, and obviously we got into the playoffs that year, so we were only 10 points behind them. Tom, he feels like the kind of manager that if you'd offered him when we hired Bullet, everyone would have been all over it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, 100%. I'm still all over it. It's only because I watched a documentary about Croatian football on FIFA.com about like 3 years ago, and
You
I
are
just
an
love the
Australian.
bloke. Like I just like him, and that is
Yeah.
enough for me with a Cardiff manager. Sometimes I just feel like he's a manager I'd buy into, and he's got at the end of the day, like he's got experience all around the world. He was a fantastic footballer himself. I remember like, he was one of the most exciting managers about when he was with Croatia, and I'd buy into it. I 100%. I think he's the type of manager that would kind of unite the fan base from the start, because you're not going, he hasn't got enough experience. You're not finding those little like kind of problems with it. You can say like he might have underperformed in a couple of places. He clearly doesn't mind chasing the coin either. If you look back at his kind of managerial record, where he's
I've just
been.
gone his Wikipedia
All right,
now.
Janine
I'm looking
Dennis.
at that. He's going pay off in the Premier League. What league's throwing money? Pay off in the
Yeah.
Premier League. China. Pay off in the Premier League. Qatar. The Saudis. It's fair play to him. He likes a payoff.
Yeah,
Apparently his
so
last
that's-
payout was 12.5 million quid.
Yeah, see, he's with us for a passion project. You know, he can see he thinks we're a sleeping giant. He's coming in for all the right reasons. You know, I'm lining up my Bilic tattoo already. You know, I'm all for it.
His win percentage at West Brom was 40%. At West Ham, it was 37.8%. At Watford, it was 38.46%. Ben, in line with your quiz, that's almost brilliant form for a Cardiff City manager, isn't it?
I mean, that's Hall of Fame stuff, isn't it? Should we have a look? Let's see. So was it 38.4? So
At Watford.
Malky, better than Slade, better than Trollope. Warnock's is a bit better. Pretty much bang on the same as Neil Harris. Better than McCarthy's, better than Morrison's, better than Hudson's, better than Lamucci's, and better than Bullets. So
I mean,
all right, take it back. Give him what he wants now. Get the pen out.
when you look at the list of players, ooh, Knocked my water bottle over. Hit it with my elbow. When you look at the list of other managers who are linked with us, Ben, Bilic is top, Riese second, Schumacher, and then once you get past Schumacher, it's not very inspiring. Ryan Lowe, Michael Beale, Freya Alexanderson, Nathan Jones, maybe, Mark Hughes again. He is probably the best of that list, isn't he?
Yeah. I think looking at that, definitely. Was it Bilic 11-4, Riese 4-1, and Schumacher 5-1. Yeah, after that, it's quite grim reading. But I think that also shows just, again, we go back to the lack of sort of a firm footballing plan from the board, that there's this many random names linked. I mean, Ramsey's 18-1 with Dragon Bet. That shouldn't be a thing. 18-1, that's too high.
The guy will get injured on the bench.
Who have we got? What's the maddest one we've got? Victor Campos, 40-1. Oh, Campelos, not Victor Campos. No, not that one. Yeah. Even like the obscure ones aren't that good. Kit Simmons, 40-1. It's just a bit boring.
Kit Simmons?
Yeah. Simon, sorry.
Oh, God, you can't even say the names right. I think if it's like a bit... Go on. Say what you got to say. I was just saying, if it's not Bilic, who is it?
No, I think it was with Bilic. Like, if I remember rightly, I don't think it was the most exciting style of football. I remember the West.
I think he's very pragmatic, isn't he?
Yeah, and that might be what we need. I think he was a bit of a West Brom. I think he used to tinker a lot. I don't think he stuck with a starting 11 too often, from what I remember. But I don't know. We've had so many kind of untested managers. We've had so many like, oh, we'll try this because it's the cheap option. Like, I wouldn't mind this. It might not be the most exciting, and it might be something to come back and bite us, but I don't see us getting relegated with a manager like Bilic. And he might steady us, and I don't mind that for the time being.
It feels very Cardiff City, because if you look at the top scorers from the season they got promoted, so in the top 10, there are no West Brom players. So obviously he likes to share the goals around the pitch, which is obviously very Cardiff City. If you look they had Mateus Pereira, who was the top assist maker that season. But he got 16 assists that year. They didn't score a massive amount of goals, got 77 goals in 46 games, slightly less than Brentford, who finished in third on 80. But Ben, maybe pragmatism is the way to go, isn't it? We need someone who's going to come in and get the best out of this squad. We don't necessarily. This is the Cardiff City thing, right? We want someone really who's going to come in and instill an ethos and change the way we play for the next 5 years and change the way we play forever. But currently, we need someone who's going to come in and get the best out of this squad, don't we?
Yeah, and I think the days sort of a manager coming in and changing the ethos of a club's gone. Especially at a club like Cardiff, managers aren't here long enough to sort of put that in. That's where the sort of footballing bodies above that's now down to them. That's why so many clubs have gone with the director of football route. I think most places, like, they might change manager every 18 months, 2 years. But I think like the average tenure of a director of football is much, much longer, just because they're in charge of the overall football structure. I think it is, like we said before, it's time for the club to move away from probably the first team manager role and move into the more modern first team coach role.
Yeah. Tom, Steven Schumacher is the other name who's kind of being mentioned alongside Omar Riese. It seems to have gone a little bit quiet on that front, but he kind of fits the mold as that first team coach, doesn't he? He doesn't necessarily come in and get involved with the manager. You know, he just does what he needs to do. He surely is the next choice after Bilic.
It's the only one that kind of stands out, doesn't it? I think, like Ben touched on earlier, there's just not many names out there. And I think, Bullet was plucked from obscurity to us. Obviously, he had a good managerial background, but there isn't many floating around the English and Welsh setup at the moment. Like, even the usual names like Nathan Jones are in jobs and in pretty steady jobs at the moment. So you're kind of just waiting for someone to get sacked or something like that and bringing them in. But so like Schumacher's the only one that kind of stands out. But again, steady. Like, it wouldn't be a bad appointment. I don't think it's that risky an appointment either. But it's just a bit frustrating because I feel like we've had this conversation a lot. It's like we're not bringing in managers to be excited about. We're trying to steady constantly. Like, steady, a little bit of progress, drop a little bit, steady again. And it's just kind of like that floating, bobbing up and down just above the surface, just below the surface.
As I said, when we hired Bullet in the summer, it felt like bringing in a manager who's going to bring in the ethos. And now we're already back at the point where we need a manager who's just going to get the best out of this squad.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's the thing though. We've got the squad. We've got a decent squad there. I think that's the one thing I'm still kind of clinging to and getting a little bit excited about is we've got some really good players there who've shown flashes of it this season. Nothing more than that, but flashes of it. And if we can get a tune out of this squad, then we'd be looking good. So I think this is why it's time for a tried and tested manager, because we don't need someone in to go and do wonders in the market at the moment or anything like that, or unearth a gem. We just need someone to get the best out of the players there, instill a system that works for us. And I'm sure we'll start to see results. So I think that's why I'd take Schumacher, I'd take Bilic. I'm not looking for some sort of progressive like prodigy just yet, because I think that could be a risky one.
One name we haven't mentioned, who was mentioned in the Twitter comments by Alex OS, Ben, Ryan Giggs. There was talk at the weekend that he was Vincent Tan's preferred choice for the manager. Obviously, he's a bad bloke. There is a lot of unresolved issues around him, which I can never remember if they're going to a retrial or not. Obviously, the first trial, I think, was a hung jury. There was talk of a retrial. I don't know what the latest is on that front and whether they're going to continue on, so I don't want to say anything that's too libelous there. But Ben, as a manager, would you take him or would you just not be asked?
I don't think you can do it. He's got the shares for Salford, doesn't he? Like, he wouldn't be. He's not able to manage a EFL club. And also, I wouldn't touch him with the 10-foot barge pole. The bloke's the wrong type of coverage for a club that's fucking shrouded in crap coverage at the best of times. The last thing we need is that being involved with us.
I think we've seen questions like, problems aside, from a managerial basis, would you take him? You can't do that. You can't separate the man from the manager. It comes as a package. You can't discuss. I don't want someone like that at our club. And like Ben said there, like, we've got enough going on at this club anyway. But like, it's just, I know like football clubs aren't the like moral high ground on a lot of things, but we'd have a choice there to not take him. And I don't need any more reasons to kind of start to fall out of love with this club. Yeah. And that would just be another one to add to the pile again. Like, obviously, I loved Ryan Giggs as a player, like when he was with Wales, but like you can't just cling to that. I can't just cling because I liked him when I was a kid. Like, he's clearly done some awful things since, and just has come across as just a nasty piece of work. The more you hear about him, the worse it gets. And we don't need another character like that around our club.
I looked up the trial. He had his charges withdrawn by the CPS and was effectively given a not guilty by the judge. So that's the status on the trial. Just making sure that I closed that off. Otherwise, I would have annoyed myself that I didn't know that. Well, Ben, we've got 2 weeks international break. You're off to Iceland. Do you want to make Tom jealous?
Yeah, I just want to rub it in that Tom's sunning himself in sunny Australia, and I'm going to, I think it's 2 degrees in Iceland while we're out there, so nice and chilly. But going on international duty, playing in the fans game, it's going to be a laugh.
Tom, is it actually sunny in Australia at the moment?
It is today. We've had awful thunderstorms, and it's been pissing down with rain for about a week. But I'd be lying to you if I told you I hadn't been looking at Skyscanner every day for the last 2 weeks to see if I could make it work.
And I think it could be further away, could it?
It couldn't be further away. No, not really. No. And I saw like earlier on that the FAW had some return tickets, and it's like, I do still qualify in like rung 1 for the time being. I could buy a ticket and turn up, but no, I'll have to leave Ben enjoying his own. I'm not going to make an appearance and burst into a Reykjavik bar just before kickoff.
That's a hell of an entrance if you did it, though. Fair play.
Yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait for another game further down the line where I'll just pop up.
One a bit closer to home, like a Georgia.
Kazakhstan, maybe. See you in Astana.
Ben, what time is the fans game?
9:00 on Thursday.
So always good time to kick off.
It's going to be freezing cold, but it'll be fun, won't it?
Well, enjoy that, Tom. Enjoy Australia. It's still there. You're still living there. We'll be back hopefully during the international break. If the club announce something, we're working on some stuff in the background. Hopefully we'll have something for you during the international break. If you like what we do, twitter.com/VFT Ninian. If you listen to this on audio and want to see it on YouTube, youtube.com/VFT Ninian, or just search you from Ninian in the search bar. Go to our Twitter page. You can find our link tree that has all the links to our various websites, kofi.com/VFT Ninian if you want to give us some money. Everything, Ben? Have we got a LinkedIn?
We do have a LinkedIn page, actually, yeah.
Yeah, good. You want to follow us on LinkedIn?
If you can follow us there. We don't do anything with it. I did it because it annoyed me that on my profile it was just like a blank square for the podcast stuff. So I was like,
I should add it to my profile. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, and we're on TikTok.
Oh yeah.
Ben does.
Why are we that old that we plugged LinkedIn before we plugged TikTok?
Yes.
That's bad.
But yeah, I was on LinkedIn earlier. I follow Brentford for some reason on LinkedIn. And every time I see Brentford post on LinkedIn, I go, why is a football club posting on LinkedIn? So it was in my head for that reason. They get good interaction on it, though. So fair play to them. We'll be back, like I said, during the international break or after. Enjoy the Wales games. Tom, enjoy Australia. Ben, enjoy Iceland and being cold. We'll see you when we see you.